Hello, everybody. Welcome to Real Communications, Real Results, the art of adding value with Dr. Matt Townsend, excuse me. This webinar is being launched live and recorded. You will receive a copy of the recording after the webinar finishes. Just to let you know that we have Real Communications, Real Results, the MAPS Group Coaching Program, launching March 14th. That is March 14th at 2 o'clock Central Standard Time with Dr. Matt. And just to let you know that if you register now and use the promotional code FR2018, you will receive 20% off of your registration fee. Thank you so much. And Dr. Matt, over to you.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you. Thank you. Hey, good to be with you all again. So appreciate these opportunities to do these presentations and really to find a way to connect with all of you. Man, isn't it amazing what technology allows us to do, which is really why I love the topic we're going to be covering today and throughout the Real Communication, Real Results coaching program that we do. Just so you know, a little background on me and you kind of have an idea who you're listening to here. I have been doing this for what feels like a really long time. As Ben mentioned, I have a PhD in human and organizational systems. I have 2 master's degrees. One's in communications and conflict resolution. I've been a divorce mediator for a few years, done a lot of mediation with corporations and organizations. I also have another master's degree in human development and have a pretty unique history where I actually worked extensively with Stephen R. Covey in his work with his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I worked for Covey Leadership Center for about 7 years, but I actually got the chance to work with Stephen in his office, sitting there, learning from him and helping on some book development. I helped write some of the books that came out of Franklin Covey Company, books like 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teenagers. I wrote extensively on. I also wrote on the book of 7 Habits of Highly Effective Marriages, as well as some other business books that came out through them. And then I was a consultant that used to travel the country for them all over the place, teaching what we're going to talk about today. And part of what I'm presenting, this is a presentation that I did with Diana Kokoska at Family Reunion in Anaheim. And so some of you may have seen me there. And so if so, you'll be able to see that I'm going to finally, hopefully, get to some other slides as we get a little closer to the end today. But what we're talking about really is this idea of adding value with people. And what I totally and firmly believe is that all of you, you're real estate agents for a reason. I personally believe it's because you're just good with people. I don't think most people that aren't good with people, that don't like people, that don't get people, most of you wouldn't choose to do real estate for a living. So what I want to show you is how to take a lot of the skills and the gifts and the abilities that are natural to you, that you already have, that you're already pretty good at. And I want to show you how to maximize a little bit and actually how to focus all of these skills on very specific things. And I think if we can do that, we can create something pretty powerful over the next few minutes. We'll only go about an hour, a little less than an hour probably. And my ultimate objective would be, if you really want to get more of these skills, more of these tools, I'd love you to join us on March 14th, where we go in depth for 4 straight hours. We're going to go in depth on each of these areas that I'll be talking about today for how to get real communication, real results, which has a subtitle of The Art of Adding Value with Your Clients, your team, and even your marriage. What we're talking about are human relationships. And again, I think you're already great at it. I also know that a lot of us can't keep doing more. You know, one of the things that I see as I work with a lot of you as agents and a lot of the just the executives I work with, and because I work with all different walks of life, from, you know, the C-suite down to just the man on the street or the woman on the street, down to even just basic relationships. Just even yesterday in my office, I had some wonderful people that the husband was going through med school and is trying to figure out, he has test anxiety and he needs to go take his boards. And so he came in to try to see if there's any way I could help him lower some of his emotional stress just about taking a test. Now, what's amazing about this guy is he's got 4 O's in everything he's ever done from high school on. He's incredible. He's always top of his class. He's always a teaching assistant. He always has all of these great opportunities to do more and be more in med school. But now that he has to go take the test, he's freaking out. He is terrified. And so if we talk about it, notice that that is just one human being who has so much to offer, but he can't find a way to get through the test so that he can go offer his greatest offering as a doctor. And I feel like a lot of us have the same problem. Some of us don't have the problem with our own mind and our own ability to be calm, but some of us have problems with other people where we don't know how to offer them the best deal. We're afraid to say certain things. We're afraid to do more, but we also know we need to be doing more in our business. A lot of you out there already know you need to be calling more people, but it bugs you. It's hard. You don't feel like you're as good at it. And so in today's little presentation, hopefully I can show you some pretty fast tools that I think could unlock some of the power inside of you. Remember that all of your competitors, the people that you compete with for your clients, all of your coworkers, the people that are on your teams, every one of us is expected to do more. We always need more. We need to do more. We need to sell more. We need to close more. We need to call more. We need to get out and actually touch more people to figure out how life's going to work. And the hard part is everyone else, that your competition and everyone around you, they can use the exact same computers you use. They can go by virtually the exact same systems. Some of your coworkers inside of Keller Williams, they can go get similar coaching as you're getting. So how do you add more? How do you add more value? And that's what we're going to be getting into today. I had a wonderful, I forgot to tell you all, but I have a radio show that's on Sirius XM satellite radio every day for 3 hours a day. I just interview people, talk to them about what they do, their research, a lot of PhDs from universities I talk to. It's just about making a better life. The radio show is. You can get it on iTunes or TuneIn or wherever you download your podcast. Just look for the Matt Townsend Show. But today on the show, I interviewed a guy named Kim Cameron, who is a PhD from Michigan, University of Michigan, and he was talking to me about one of the coolest things that added so much value to my life today, and also I think it will add a lot of value to what we're talking about. When we talk about adding value, what Kim Cameron talked about is the fact that every single relationship has energy. He calls it relational energy. And when this, so notice, this is a PhD at University of Michigan, says that when I interact with another person, I bring to that equation energy. And my energy is going to be positive, appreciative, a multiplier energy, or my energy is going to be a detracting energy, a negative energy. But he says everybody has it. And the research is now showing that the people that have the highest positive relational energy, they have happier teams, they have more engaged teams, they outperform by a value of 4 other teams that don't have positive, or leaders that don't have positive relational value. And it's interesting, I've never had the term or heard of the term relational energy ever. And I've studied relationships for 25 years. Today's the first day I've ever heard of it, but it's amazingly what I'm going to show you how to do. I've been teaching this idea forever, and I've never been able to know what the word was for what we're trying to create with somebody else. I just call it synergy. But what it is also is energy. When you sit down with another human being and you're in the space with them in a positive, powerful, productive way, you have power with them to add value to the equation, not just to detract from the equation, not even just to get the sale to happen, but to get the sale to happen in a way that you don't deplete the energy of another person. Instead, what you actually do is you give them more energy for life You give them more energy for work and to get better value and better value in their life. So one of the things I like to do early is kind of blow up a little bit of a myth about relationships and team, okay? The basic myth is this. I don't personally believe that it's about how great of a person you are. That's not the key to this. As you take this presentation and take it into your heart, I would love you to be as effective and great as you can be. But there is a benefit of what we call team. And if you remember in the Olympics, there's a race in the Summer Olympics that's called the pursuit race. The pursuit race, it's not a marathon like you see these runners. We had to change the slide because of ownership of the rights to the picture. But there's a race in the Olympics that is called the pursuit race. It's a bunch of people on bicycles, and they ride on a velodrome, which is a banked oval in basically usually a stadium, and they just ride their bike on this track, you know, in a pretty orderly fashion. And in the Sydney Olympics in 2000, the men's individuals, so one man on one bike, won the world record time of 4 minutes and 18 seconds, meaning he went 4 kilometers in 4 minutes and 18 seconds, which was amazing. Everybody was blown away. The funny thing was that exact same day, 2 men in the team event, so 2 men actually shaved 18 seconds off of the world record time, almost 19 seconds off. They came in 4 kilometers, 2 people, in 3 minutes and 59 seconds because they ran as a team, right? So I always ask, well, where did all the extra value come from? That's a perfect example of value add. And I always wonder, did the value come from the first racer or the second racer? And the reality is, it didn't come necessarily from either of the racers. The value of their race came in what happened between the 2 of them. See, there was something that took place between racer 1 and racer 2 on the team. And that value actually was so additive that it shaved off 18, almost 19 seconds off of the world record time. And that's what I want to teach you to do with the people that you are engaging with your clients, with your friends, with your coworkers, with your team. How do we shave off and add more value so we don't have to work as long necessarily? We don't have to do as much. We don't have to pay as much. How do we get more out of the relationship that we're working in? So what I teach is the value. It's basically, Aristotle has taught it forever, that the whole is greater than the sum of its individual parts. Right? Now, Stephen Covey didn't term the phrase, but he used the phrase synergy. Synergy is the idea that I can actually get more with you than I can in the sum of our individual parts. And let me give you an example of that, because they say a really good pole horse, for example, that pulls like a plow, should be able to pull its weight. Okay, one good pole horse, let's say it weighs 1,000 pounds, it should be able to pull its weight. That's kind of the give, right? What they found, though, is if you put a really good pole horse next to another good pole horse, and those 2 pole horses are trained up and they pull together, they should actually be able to pull not 2,000 pounds, but 4,000 pounds. Okay, we call that, again, synergy. It's a very interesting thing, but they can pull double what any of them could pull, or 4 times more than they could pull individually, but double what they could ever be able to pull together. But how are they doing it? Is one horse just really only pulling 3,000 but only getting credit for 1,000 pounds? Or is something else going on? And I'm here to tell you something else is going on. And I want all of us to start to recognize what that something is, whether it's called relational energy, whether it's called synergy, whether it's called just sheer connection, or we've just got, we've got a good vibe, whether we've got this sense of teamwork, whatever it is, there's something going on. And if you can connect to it and use it, you can use it to your advantage. In Utah, there is an aspen grove that is called Pando, is what they've named it. And it is one aspen grove that is about 106 acres large. And all of these aspen trees have grown together in one ginormous ball, one root ball that is 106 acres around, basically. And that root ball means that is one complete system. And it is one of the largest, largest growing systems that is alive in this world. It's so incredible. It's so powerful. And that really then it has made it more efficient for every other part of the ball to live and exist, because they're choosing to all live, they are grown as an entity to be one entity. A lot of us think of putting our teams together, don't we? And we think, now what I've got to do is get all of these aspen trees to somehow connect. We somehow have to share a root ball, and we have to somehow coexist and make our lives work with each other. The hard part, though, is doing it. How do we go about creating synergy? And for the next about 30, 40 minutes, we're going to show you how to do it. The research is pretty strong. It's very basic, what we're going to teach you. But I believe in many regards, you already do a lot of this naturally. You may not have ever put it all together in one equation like we will today as we teach real communication, real results. Let me give you an example of some of the math I'm talking about. The goal for most of us as we deal with our clients, as we work with people, is to have you and me equal more together. So in this webinar we're doing, I would love me and you to be able to leave with more value created than if I were just doing this alone. Now, ideally, if we could turn the phones on and let everybody just talk, which is hard to do with so many people that are on right now, we could create a really powerful conversation. And we would call that a value add conversation. The value add is me and you equaling more together, okay? Now, some of us, though, struggle with certain relationships where we don't create a value add, we create a value minus, meaning you and I together tend to create negative value. You might even notice with some people, one day we create value add, 1 + 1 = 5, and the next day we create value minus, 1 + 1 = -5. And so just notice that every single relationship you have has a value attached to it. The relationship, meaning that plus sign, has a value. Every single plus sign, every single interaction you have has a value to it. It's either additive or it's subtractive, or sometimes the value is a 0 and you just break even. And some of us in our jobs, on our teams, we are fine breaking even. You know, I don't care. I'll do this, you do this, as long as I don't lose anything. Breaking even is great. Some of us don't go for break even sometimes. Some of us actually compromise. Now, compromise is seemingly, it's a weird word because we love it. It's a very positive word, right? So we teach our kids that they should compromise. But the problem sometimes is we tend to compromise when we really should be going for synergy. We don't have to always make it a compromise. A compromise is simply where you and I together equal, we both get less out of the deal. Compromises are really easy. Right? I give a little, you give a little, and we each get less than we brought in. The problem with a compromise, though, is you can't compromise in some places. So instead of just getting used to always compromising and calling that good business, what we might want to do is how to actually do a deal where we actually all get dramatically more together, instead of each of us losing a little bit of what we wanted. And I'll try to hopefully explain how we do that and why and what that means to us. But compromise is essential. And it's super easy when I don't care, right? If I really don't care what the outcome is, I'll compromise or I'll break even all the time. When I go to Taco Bell, I don't, I'm not expecting a gourmet meal. So if they tell me that, oh, sorry, we're out of Burrito Supreme, I'm like, okay, great, whatever. I'll have an enchilada. It doesn't matter. I'll compromise, right? Now, people that won't compromise. What? There's no burritos. I'm out of here. And they leave. And they're going to go find their Burrito Supreme at another location. But when we can compromise, I guess go ahead and do it. but don't do it at the expense of never learning how to truly create synergy with people. Because there's nothing more valuable than synergizing, especially, by the way, notice when we can't compromise. There are certain times I won't compromise with you. If what you're trying to tell me to do is to buy the house and do it in a way that's illegal or unethical or immoral, I won't do it. And I'm not going to not do it, even though there's money to be made. I'm not going to compromise if it's going to put me at a potential chance of going to jail, right? So at some time, when two people really want to make something work, we've got to learn how to create synergy and value add. And the way we do it, it's not me always trying to change you, and it's not you always trying to change me. What we probably need to focus on is where all the real value is coming from. And in the model that you can see there, it's not in you and it's not in me. It's in what's happening between us. In every negotiation, in every conversation, in every interaction, something is going on between us. And if we manage what's happening between us effectively, we can create something so powerful that actually does build more trust, that does make us safer, that does set us not only to get up to get results today, but it actually enhances my ability to get results tomorrow. Remember, how I choose to interact with you today determines how I have to interact with you tomorrow. Does that make sense? How I choose to get my kids to buckle their seatbelt impacts how I have to get them to buckle their seatbelt tomorrow. I used to try to get my kids to buckle their seatbelt by fear. You know, I've even known people that with their kids, as they're like driving down the street slowly, they'll just slam on their brakes and all the kids will go flying. And they do it for fun, right? But then everyone gets in and gets their seatbelt on. Now, what I used to do is I wouldn't try to kill my kids. I would just say, oh, there's a cop. There's a cop. Hurry, get buckled up. And my kids would hurry and get buckled up. But what I realized is they wouldn't get buckled up because they needed to be safe. They were getting buckled up because I was scaring them that cops were here. And then I noticed the next day it was harder to get them to get buckled up because then my kids would say, I'd say, kids, get your seatbelts on. And they'd say, is there a cop? And I had created a monster. So you got to be careful in how you choose to make your money, how you choose to build your team, how you choose to go about working with that plus sign. Because however you work it today will set you up for how you're going to need to work it tomorrow. One of the things that I teach is that in that space between you and I, even in this presentation, the space is starting to form. And in that space, there's certain things that need to be happening between you and I if we want to create more value. And again, it's easier to do if you can talk and connect. If we were eye to eye, it would be so much easier to do this. But again, for the sake of efficiency, we're going to just, do it through a webinar. But I want you to be thinking about how you're going to do this with eye-to-eye contact, connecting to somebody. And what I teach is there's certain principles, there's certain realities that are additive. And when they're when those principles exist with us in the space between us, it makes our world better with people. It actually creates more positive energy, and that energy becomes this multiplier with others. And what I teach is this plus sign. If you remember, look at that right there, the big red plus sign. Does that not look like the Red Cross sign, right? Or the first aid sign? Isn't it interesting? By the way, many religions obviously connect to the plus or the cross sign as a way of healing, as a way of safety, as a way of health and taking care of each other. I want you to be thinking of the plus sign in your relationships. In the plus sign, there are 4 basic principles that need to be experienced in that space with other people. And you can see the principle here taught by Noah Ben Shea. The quote says, it's the silence between the notes that makes the music. It's the space between the bars that hold the tiger in. If you go to the zoo and there are bars at the zoo and you go to the tiger exhibit and the bars are 4 feet apart from each other, I'd leave. I'd get out of there because bars don't keep you safe. The space between the bars is what keeps you safe, right? Now notice, you don't even notice the space as much as you notice the bars. And in our negotiations and in our interactions with other human beings, we don't even notice the people half as much. We don't even notice the relationship or the space between the bars as we notice the people. We're much more inclined to notice what the woman wore to the showing or the meeting you had this morning. You're more likely to remember that than the feelings and the chemistry and the energy and the positivity that was felt in the relationship. And I think some of that's just because we're humans. We value tangible things, the things we can touch. We value those much more than the intangibles. The problem is, though, the real added value is not always in the tangible. The added value is in the intangible. How many times have you sold a house by simply a feeling, right? The couple walks in, they see the house, and they immediately get a feeling. And the feeling is inside of them. And they know this is the place. And then notice what they do. They start talking about all of these things that are related to the feeling. Can you imagine our kids will be able to play down here and I'll be able to watch them while I'm cooking dinner and our den is right there, so it'll be close. So all of this is about feeling. It's not about a den and it's not about where the kids will play. It's about the space that we're talking about. So that's why I really think you as agents are going to understand this content about the space between so much better than other people and other professions. In the space with other human beings, there are 4 principles at play. And each of these principles produces something. And when it produces something, this hidden value, and when it produces it, that value is something that will actually add a really unique benefit to the space and the relationship with them. Let me show you what I mean. Every single person I know has to go through certain principles of life. We have change. We have to have character. We have to learn to cooperate. And we have to learn to communicate. So there are 4 very basic principles that I personally believe must exist in our human relationships, in the space between you and everyone you work with, because each one of them produce an outcome. And the outcome is something that is so powerful that if you have it, it gives you more ability, more energy, more trust, more safety with the people, more respect, more encouragement, more dedication from them. And when you have those things being met, you can start to create synergy with human beings. Let me give you an example. The first one we're going to talk about is character right here, the upper right-hand quadrant, okay? Character simply means that you have, with other people, they sense that you have character, that you live your life with integrity, that you say what you mean, that you mean what you say, that you wouldn't do something just to get an easy thing. You wouldn't do anything against your value system. It's character 101. And if you have character, the byproduct of you being a person of character is that it tends to create an insurance of mutual trust. You ensure mutual shared trust with others. When people sense you have character, they trust you. When they don't sense you have character, they don't trust you. When we have trust, think about that. Think of somebody you trust. Think of somebody you believe has character. Those people immediately have more power with you, don't they? They have more ability to tell you something. You're more quick to believe them. It's easier for them to transact a deal with you because character precedes the message, right? Many call that moral authority. So if you have character and you're trustworthy, then think about, look at the next principle. How much easier is your life to communicate? It's so much easier to communicate with somebody that trusts your character. But if you don't have high character because you were just at a meeting and talking negatively about somebody and they found out you were talking negatively and then they confronted you about it in the meeting and everyone in the meeting watched you get confronted and heard that you had just been bad-mouthing somebody, Notice, the minute you know somebody doesn't have the character, how do you communicate to them? How do you communicate with somebody you don't trust? You hold back. You don't open up. Think of how many times you've had a customer that didn't, and by the way, not because you didn't exercise character, but because they just don't trust agents. They just don't trust you. They're not going to open up with what they really need from their house. So you're always trying to guess. You're always trying to figure it out. And compare that customer to somebody that does trust you and tells you everything. And if you don't bring the house that they want to see, they tell you. Now notice, if we have mutual trust, then we can get to mutual understanding. And the more you understand me, the more I trust you. And the more you trust me, the more I can understand you. And these things start to create synergy. And once we have trust and understanding, then I can go for cooperation. Now let's cooperate in creating a really cool answer for you. And I can start to pursue what we call mutual benefit. If you want a relationship to last for a long time, everybody needs to benefit in the space. Make sense? I need to benefit, you need to benefit. I need to understand your needs, you need to understand my needs. I need to trust you, you need to trust me. And if I can trust you, understand your needs, and we can both cooperate in winning together, then you're going to look out for my win and I'm going to look out for your win. And it starts to create more and more synergy. The reason those cyclists ride together and create that benefit of drafting with each other is because everyone's benefiting. I benefit from the person in front of me. They benefit from the person in front of them. There's actually a really cool thing that's created when we draft, and it's called an emergent property. And it's something that appears when all the conditions line up and are really powerful and effective. Is once we're drafting off of the same, and we're like we're in a bicycle race or a cycling race, we have to break that air bubble. And once we're all riding in a line, the first person actually is creating a vacuum, and everyone behind them is being pulled in that vacuum. And it makes it more efficient. The second person, however, also there's a little cushion of air between the person behind and the person in front, and that cushion of air pushes the people. So as we're creating a vacuum and a push, it creates more efficiency. The same thing happens in our dynamics with our teams. We have to have the character. We have to have the communication to build the understanding. We then need to use our understanding to create shared mutual benefit. So you're benefiting and I'm benefiting. You're benefiting and I'm benefiting. And what that sometimes means is we need to change. The last principle. I need to see that you're willing and able to change when it's appropriate that you change. Now, I'm not saying you need to always be the one that changes, because I need to change too. But have you ever been with somebody that wouldn't change their ways, that wouldn't improve their situation? And eventually, if you see they won't change, you start to cooperate less. You start to communicate differently, and you start to sometimes show the wrong kind of character. You become a character instead of showing character, right? You start becoming a jerk instead of being somebody of principle and integrity. So think about it. Think of somebody you're struggling with to add more value with in your team. Think of somebody you're trying to sell a property to, and you're having trouble with them in the space. Go through those 4 areas. Is there character? Do you possess the character? Do they possess the character? Do you guys share mutual trust, or is trust suffering? Do you guys communicate effectively? Do you know how to enable the mutual understanding? Do they understand you? Do you tell them what you need to tell them? And do you understand them? Do they understand what your benefit is in this deal? And do you understand what their benefit is? And last but not least, is there something you need to change? Because one of the things that's most efficient to change properly and positively would be to improve your character. If you want to immediately push and create a better play in your relationship with others, improve your character. Work harder to change and make your character better. Show more integrity, or change your communication. Listen more, or change how you cooperate by recognizing I must not be understanding you, and change your opinion enough to listen to someone else. We call that that basically are the 4 C's: character, communication, cooperation, and change. And when those are there, something really powerful starts to take place in the space with other people. Now, in the class that I am starting on March 14th, the group coaching class, it's a 4-week class, and in the 4 weeks, I'm going to go get into each one of those areas and show you how to actually process and go through those areas with the other people of your life. I'm also going to show you a really, it's an in-depth thing we'll get into through the coaching program, but today I'm going to show you a fast way to cut through what's going on in your interactions with other people. Every single time you talk to another person, you start to have this engagement, right? And you got to pay attention, because a lot of things can start to appear in the conversation. For example, you can see in this model here that it's a model of smoke and fire, and there's a bunch of things going on. You can see turf wars. So have you ever had with your whole office, people were arguing over who got what turf, who got what lead, or they were fighting about deadlines that were supposed to be met, or promotions? How come one person got that money, got promoted, and I didn't get promoted? I've been on the team forever. So somebody may bring you that conflict or that problem. You might have differing personalities issues. You might see changes going on the team that you don't like, or goals that seem to be moving. You might just see professional differences. Some people just don't like your style. Some might have communication issues or performance reviews. Those are a lot of the problems that I see in typical corporate America settings. With you and your agents, it's going to be different than with you and your clients. And with your clients, it might be different than the problems and the issues that come up between you and your spouse. It doesn't matter what the issues are, because watch, when somebody brings you a problem and they're talking to you about, I'm not sure you're doing a very good job. You're not bringing me what I want. I keep asking you to bring me this kind of house, and you're not bringing it. And so it's like, I feel like you're treating me like I'm not smart enough to know what I want. Now, can you see how if somebody said that to you, that would start to create some issues? And you might say, what do you mean by that? And then you start fighting them about the houses you bring. If this turns into a big fight about the houses that you keep bringing to show people, I'm going to bet you're not dealing with the real issue. I'm going to call that the smoke. The smoke is everything that we talk about with people that's not the real issue. The smoke is everything we fight about that's not the real issue. And I teach that the fastest way to cut through the smoke is not to fight with them about the houses that you're bringing to them. What I would be looking for is what I call the fire. Wherever there's smoke, there's got to be fire. The fire are the deeper needs that need to be met. And if the deeper needs aren't being met, you will always have smoke. So when somebody talks to you about the crack in the foundation, and I don't want the house because it's a crack in the foundation, and you can fight with them all day long about how cracks in the foundation can be fixed. That's not a crack in the foundation. That's a crack in the stucco. You can fight about it all day long. But just know that deeper down, it's not about a crack in the foundation or the stucco. It's about a deeper need. And I'm going to show you now 7 basic needs that need to be met in every relationship. We need to feel safer. Every human being needs safety. When I'm buying a house, I need to feel safe physically, so I'm not going to die of asphyxiation because there's too much carbon monoxide. I need to feel safe socially in the transaction so my agent doesn't embarrass me. I need to feel safe emotionally so I can share what's in my heart. I need to feel safe financially, like this is a good deal. And I need to feel safe, I call it spiritually, in a way that I know that we have the same value system. Make sense? So when we fight about, for example, the foundation or the fact that you're not showing me the right houses, it might be that the person you're talking to doesn't feel emotionally safe with you. If all of a sudden you keep showing houses that are out of their price range, they're going to fight with you about houses and the houses you're showing, and they're going to start to show you signs that it's not working. But really what their issue is, they may not feel financially safe with you as their agent because you keep bringing them something that's going to bankrupt them. And all of a sudden that causes a problem, right? But they may not be willing to say, you know, I can't afford anything you're showing me. They may not dare say that, some would, but instead they actually complain about the location. They complain about the type of house that you're looking at. So safety has to be there. Trust has to be there. If you want to have a long-term relationship, we got to trust each other. And to me, I teach there's two things, and we'll get in detail in this on March 14th. I have to trust your character so I know you're honest, and I have to trust your competency so that I know that you know how to do your job. If we want to have long-term trust, we've got to trust both of those things. I also have to feel appreciated by you. Everyone wants to be appreciated differently. Some of us feel appreciated by having someone's time. Some want to hear positive stuff. I like to be appreciated in my hearing. I like to hear it, is the sense I use. Some don't use their ears to feel appreciated. They use their eyes. My wife feels most appreciated through her eyes. She wants to see that I care about her because I text her, because I'm happy and I'm smiling and I'm cleaning around the house. She wants to see it. Some of us don't want to see it. We want to feel it. So just notice, everyone wants to be appreciated differently. Some also want respect and need respect. So think about the couple where the wife keeps asking for more and more in the house, and the husband keeps asking for less and less in the house. It might simply be that he may feel like you guys aren't respecting his opinion. I keep telling you I want a garage, and you keep showing me houses without a garage. You got everything my wife wants, but nothing I want. So if it's a respect issue, we'll fight about the garage instead of the respect. So cut through it by listening to the deeper need. Do they feel disrespected by what you're saying? Do they feel disrespected because you didn't invite them to be on the promotion, or you didn't get them promoted? So safety, trust, appreciation, respect, validation, encouragement, and dedication. People have to feel valid with their opinions. They have to feel encouraged, like you actually are encouraging them to share, and they have to feel like you're dedicated to them. If you take a call when you're standing right with them, that may make them feel like you're not dedicated. And they may not say anything. They just might have less positive relational energy towards you the rest of the showings. They're just not going to be into you as you go visit houses. Make sense? And you may know it started with something around the call. But by the way, think of that. If somebody likes to be appreciated by seeing, and they see that you're on the phone when you're supposed to be with them, that may impact them negatively. So I call those 7 basic needs the starved stuff. Starved people, here's the rule, starve people. If I'm starving on my team, I will starve you. If you're starving, you will starve me, and we start to starve each other. So in the Real Communication, Real Results program, I'm going to show you how to cut through all of this and start getting down to where people are starving. Here's the reason why it's so important. When people are starving, they show it. We call them vital signs. When people have starved issues that you're not addressing, you're going to see that their emotions get very negative, misunderstandings go up, and mistrust goes up. When I'm starved, I'm going to show signs of it. What I teach in the program is to have real communication, you need to pay attention to the signs. When you see the negative emotion in another, quit going, quit pushing, quit going with your agenda, quit trying to sell them. Instead, stop and get into getting real with them. Have a real conversation where you get down to where they're starving. Instead of fighting about the crack in the wall, you could sit there and say, man, John, I saw that when you saw the crack, your emotions got kind of negative. You got angry. You got frustrated. Tell me what's going on. And I want them to share more about what I'm picking up. Because what we found is if they'll share and they that will lower their emotion. And it also will increase your understanding. So as you get them talking about real stuff that they're starving about and they're struggling with, their emotion will go down as they share, and your understanding will go up. And when understanding's up and emotion is down, then you have more influence and power with them. Now, if people have great positive emotions and it's clear what's going on and we have high trust, say whatever you want. And we'll drill that into your head as we go through the Real Communications class. But If they're not showing the signs, quit trying to push it. I learned that as an EMT on an ambulance. You have to check vital signs before you treat somebody. And then after you treat them, you check them again. So we're always checking vitals, treating, checking, treating, checking, treating. And that's how we're going to teach you to go through having a real relationship with somebody. If I have an agent that recognizes my vital signs, that's trying to feed my starved stuff, that's trying to exercise character and communication and cooperation and is willing to change with me and adapt, you have my value. You are very valuable to me, not just as an agent, but as a friend, as a peer. You're the one I want 10 of your cards because I want to refer you to my friends because I trust you and we have something pretty powerful going on. We also are going to teach another tool that I call real communication, real results. If you notice, the smoke and fire is in this model. And in the real communication class, the group coaching class, we spend about an hour and a half on this model. And in the model, I teach you 4 easy steps of how to cut through the smoke and get down to the real issues of people that they're struggling with. I want you to recognize their emotion. There's always emotion. I want you to recognize it. I don't want you to react to it. I want you to explore their story. Behind every emotion, there's a story. And if you recognize the emotion, man, Stacy, you seem like you really felt good about this house. You seemed really happy when you walked in. Tell me what's going on. I guarantee you there will be a story. Well, when I walked in and I saw that wall with the big mirror, it reminded me of my childhood when my family had a big mirrored wall because that was the bomb. And I thought, oh my heavens, that is cool. Now, I don't want the mirror. We're going to have to take it down if we buy it. But it brought back a really cool memory. Now, can you imagine if you know that memory and you're connected to her childhood, that's something I would remember. I would use that, understand that. She's really deeply connected to memories like that. And see if you can't create more of those connections as you go through the house. Recognize the emotion, explore their story behind it, and attend to their starved stuff. Underneath every story, if you listen to it long enough, you'll hear where they're starving. And I would rather talk to you about my feeling unsafe financially than fighting with you about if we can fix a crack in the foundation. There's a perfect time to tell somebody that you can fix the crack in the foundation, but that's probably not while I'm a little frustrated or worried. Instead, recognize my emotion. John, you seem worried about the crack we just found. Tell me what's going on, and let's explore that story and listen to him. Well, my dad bought a house about 20 years ago where that foundation, water had gotten in and blah, 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 and it meant the ground was shifting and it was a waste, and he lost $100,000 on a house. Isn't that good to know? Yeah, holy cow. Yeah, we've got to check into that because I would never let you do that. But let me look into that because we can also check and do other tests and we can evaluate it other ways. Oh, boy, that's a big worry. Thanks for letting me know that, John. Now, once you have figured it out and you understand where they're starving, then you can go try to lift the conversation. And by the way, notice that I'm going to work on their emotion, their story, and their starved stuff before I ever try to tell them my opinion. My opinion's useless if they're emotional, if their story's unheard, and if they feel starved. So I'm not going to tell it. I'm going to hold off on it. And then what that makes it so that when you actually do start sharing your story, people are going to believe you. They're going to listen to you because you have so much information from them. Then we're going to lift the conversation. I'm going to show them where I agree. You know what? I totally agree. Cracks scare me. In fact, I haven't heard a person that's lost $100,000. What did your dad do? And you can further the conversation. I admit that if I were you too, John, coming from where you came from, that would be a terrifying story. And then we'll do the famous and that you guys use so much here at Keller Williams. And here's the trick. I know that there are a lot of things we can do to make sure that the ground isn't shifting as much, have some tests done. I know there's other things we could do if foundations were cracked to secure them, and we would always make the buyer do that before we'd ever want to move in. And I'll protect you, and we'll get insurance and other stuff. So if you like the house, we can work on it. If not, I'm totally willing to find you other houses. Lifted it. Instead of spending 20 minutes fighting about whether cracks are bad or not. The last thing I teach is how we change. And it's one of my favorite lessons. It basically, there's a great quote by Albert Einstein that says, you cannot attempt to solve a problem that you created at the same level of thinking you were at when you created it. Albert Einstein, one of the smartest guys around, but one of the things that I love about him, there was a story about he could get so focused that he would stand out in the rain, and his wife, I believe it was, I can't remember if it was his wife or his mother, would have to come out, I think it was his wife, and she would say, Albert, come in out of the rain, because he'd be standing in the rain, and he'd be thinking. And he's like, oh, yeah, I didn't even notice that. He needed to change. And the funny thing about a lot of us is a lot of us are doing things that we don't know don't work. And we need to learn to change. And we need to learn to turn on what I call some lights. And I believe every human being has some really powerful tools that are already in you that help you be better at knowing how to read the space with other people. The 4 things I teach, the 4 lights, are called self-awareness. Every human being can be more self-aware, meaning we need to know how we impact people. We need to start recognizing the energy we bring or the problems we might be creating. So I'm going to show you how to turn on the light of being more self-aware so you get better data from yourself. You can be more other-aware, or what we call empathic, to what others need. We also can be more centered on our vision and our purpose. So every human being can be self-aware. What part of the problem was I? Other-aware. What do they need and want? Vision awareness. What do I want most out of this deal? My bigger picture, my vision. And then the last great gift or light that every human has is a conscience. A conscience is what helps us understand between what's right and wrong in our world. And the conscience can actually help us to learn what we should do. Now, let's go through them really quickly, and it's going to help you come up with an assignment today. As you leave, I'm going to ask you 4 questions that I want you to answer in your head based on what we've talked about, based on what I've shared with you today about real communication, real results, and the art of adding value with others. What part of working well with people are you? And what part do you need to get better at? Okay? Your self-awareness will probably tell you, I'm really good at this and I need to work on this. Another question, what do others around you need more of from you? That's the empathy or the other question. What do your clients need more from you? Now your self-awareness might say more listening. And it might be because you're empathic to the fact that they've given you that feedback. So notice, what part of the problem or solution are you? And what do the people around you need and want? The third question, what do you want most as an agent and in your relationships, personally and professionally? What do you want from those relationships? Notice, you already have an answer. I want to be better at this. I want to change lives. I want to be able to do more with less and actually maybe go through fewer people, but take those people and relationships deeper. And then the last question, what's the most important thing you can do today based on what you've already learned just in our little webinar? What's the most important thing you can learn to do today that would have a positive impact on the people in your life? And I want you to come up with an answer. For some, it might be, I just need to check vital signs. For some, it might be, I need to learn to get real. For others, it might be, I need to cut through the smoke and get down to the starve stuff. Others, it might be, I need to exercise more character or communication or companionship or change. Whatever it is that you need to do, I challenge you to go do it. And for some of you, it might be get into the real communication, real results group workshop that we're going to be doing on March 14th. Sign up, get in there, and let's make this happen. Let's start doing this. And I promise, as we spend 4 hours in depth, you're going to get so many tools. You're going to get so many ideas for how to make this work. You're going to have a downloadable workbook, a lot of stuff we got going for you. And I want to be able to be there to help you, okay? So thanks for the time. Thanks for joining us. I'll leave you with one of my favorite quotes by Gandhi that says, "You must become the change you seek in the world." If you want more character from your people, let's go grow some character. You want more companionship or cooperation? Be a better cooperator or companion. You want more communication? Be a better communicator. You want more change in a positive way in your life? Then you become a change agent. Quit waiting for the world to do it, and instead you go do it. And remember, March 14th, just go to Keller Williams Maps, look up the group coaching tab, find Real Communication, and get signed up for that workshop and that group class, and we'll start knocking it out of the park together. We'll start becoming that change. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate your time. Thanks,
Thank
Ben.
you, Dr. Matt. Appreciate it. Thank you. And as Dr. Matt was saying, that course begins on Wednesday, March 14th at 2 o'clock Central Time. And like we said before, if you use that code FR 2018, then you will receive 20% off of the registration cost. All right. Thank you so much. And we hope you had a great time. Take care.
Thank you. Take care.